Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Gago, the founder and CEO at Pando. Pando is a platform designed to kill traditional performance reviews and bring in continuous performance calibration. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I think this topic, AI and future of work, is really timely and urgent. There's a lot of complexity in how the future of work and the world in general is being shaped. I think we're certainly at an inflection point. It's not an abstract concept. It's not this thing that's coming. It is 100% here. And it's already sort of reshaping work, how we learn, how we grow, and also how we lead. One of the biggest questions for HR and people leaders today is how are we going to implement this and implement it in a way that makes us more human, make sure that things are equitable and ethical and really human centric. I've got three fabulous panelists here with me to have this conversation. They're all coming from different perspectives, from education, technology development, culture building. So we've got a great conversation in store for you. Quickly to introduce everyone, Pascal Vallet is the junior middle school principal at the United Nations International School. We connected a couple of years ago now on performance and how that looks in education, and he's been implementing a lot of tools to help himself and the rest of the org sort of improve educator performance. Amanda Halle is a fractional people leader, trusted advisor to companies that are really navigating digital transformation. And she's very interested in applying AI practically. So happy to have you both here. Akhila Nagula, the co-founder at the Happy Employees, where she's working with organizations to design more human-centered cultures through AI and leveraging AI to help better understand and support the employee experience. Pascal, Amanda, Akhila, thank you for being here. And
Excited to be
welcome.
here.
So we're gonna jump in and we're really gonna explore a couple of key areas when we're thinking about AI and what that looks like in the workplace. So it's already happening. So we're gonna talk a little bit practically about what's working, what's shifting, and then also what do we need to sort of protect. So thinking about the ethical considerations, the human priorities priorities and values, I would say, that we don't want to really compromise. I think it's an important conversation to have. So let's start with a quick round from each of you, weighing of pros and cons. One thing that you're really excited about when it comes to AI, in particular in the workplace, and also something that you want or think we should be cautious about. And Amanda, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about many things. I would say one thing is how AI can help us to really uncover deeper layers of workplace dynamics, giving us, I think, more awareness about how we work and ideas about how to take that and work smarter and more efficiently, and being able to really create more personalized, data-driven, interactions and strategies to improve how we work, and ultimately drive better outcomes for business and people within it. I would say on the cautious side, I am cautious about who is and isn't using AI and why. I think that there's already gender gaps in usage, and I am really aware of that. And I want to make sure that we're able to provide opportunities for everyone and that we're really deliberate about that.
Yeah. Akhila, how about you?
Yeah, I'm really excited about AI in the workplace, mostly for the HR professionals, because there's like a lot of opportunity to become as a strategic partners, right? And the more important thing of understanding the qualitative data, which we couldn't measure, which we couldn't actually assign a KPI or directly convert into an ROI in terms of a business, we'll be able to do that with AI. So that's like really understanding the human emotions or qualitative data into an ROI metrics. I think that's the biggest win for humans for us to actually in the workplace. Caution side, the biggest caution is more of the pressure to urgently implement AI. Hey, it's AI right now, let's implement it right now. That pressure is actually making people to lead or use AI without understanding the mechanics or what is the intent of it or how it's been built, basically how to use it, right? You're just pushing everyone to start using it without giving the proper education that's needed for them to use. So I feel like that might have the ramification effects in future.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I mean, we've seen several CEO mandates recently about mandatory AI use, so I do think it's a good caution. Pascal, how about you?
So for me, what is exciting about AI, it came at the right moment. The reason why I connected with you a couple of years ago was to get inspiration from what happened outside of education, to see how I can optimize the work I'm doing with my teachers to support my student growth, my student learning, to support the families better, and how we can optimize this work. And so that's you are one of the person I approach outside education to try to learn. What I've seen before AI arrived is automation was very important. Try to be able to not necessarily replace human with technology, but being able to replace some mind-numbing behaviors. That was really here the idea. And so we done a lot of work with automation, and then AI came in 2023, and we were able to add to this optimization AI. And it has been fascinating how we have been able to go much deeper, further than what we were able to do. In some ways, and I'm French, so forgive I'm French, what is exciting with AI is one component of a system of three. And in this comparison, because I'm French, I'm going to talk about cheese, wine, and bread. What we have done, we have some cheese and we have some bread. We have the automation and we think about process. How do we need to process? And this is outside of technology. And the automation where the cheese coming with the bread. And the AI is the wine. And you know, if you're French, when you combine these three things here, you get more than the sum of the three. And that's really what we have experienced here. We can go in some places that the three of those things, great process, good automation, and AI on their own cannot achieve. By bringing them, the three of them, we can really do a lot. Now, the concern that I have here is, and everything we've done with AI start with a philosopher, a Canadian, McLuhan, who he say this. He say that we are the tool that we behold. We shape tools and the tool shape us. And so when you think about it, that means that anything that we're going to technology is not only going to support the task, our goals, is also going to transform us. And so today we have a technology, AI, that gives the impression to think, to understand, in a way that technology has not been able to do for us before. So what transformation is going to push on us? And so we need to be excited by the possibilities, but we need also to be aware of how it's going to transform us, how it's going to transform humanity.
Yeah, I think it's also a really good point. I mean, I feel like I've seen already in just the last year behaviors, expectations for how people want to interact with things and tools have already changed very quickly just from, interacting with ChatGPT or anything else. I think Googling it, was for a long time a behavior change, and this is definitely creating a new behavior change. I would add I think these are all really good, and so I'll just contribute as well. So I think the AI in the workplace is really interesting from how can we scale ourselves or do things that, we don't have the resources to, or we wouldn't otherwise be able to do, like qualitative research or interviewing everybody in your organization, for example. And my caution is kind of the flip side of that. At least that's how I'm thinking about it as a technology builder, is that I want us to be cautious of the why behind what we're building when it comes to AI. And do we need to replace certain things, or can we, enhance? As Pascal, you mentioned, these tools are going to be shaping us. And I think we do have, some decisions to make. And my caution is just not doing things because we can, but actually asking why we do it. So I guess moving from there, kind of setting the initial stage, what's already happening within the workplace, what's already working. And Amanda, I'll start with you because I know you work with several different companies. How have you seen, what are the practical sort of use cases or jobs to be done currently that are really effective that organizations are adopting?
Yeah, I think I'll start with a kind of more broad view. I see a lot of applications with the people that I'm working with in conversations that I have with lots of HR leaders, is that there's a lot being done at the individual and team level. I think that I don't see as much at the more broad company level, other than, like you said, these kind of more company-wide mandates that CEOs are making that are pretty much broad strokes that I don't know, how, when the rubber hits the road, what
How
that means for,
programmatic
like,
it is, yeah.
yeah. So I think the place where I see it driving really, really strong value at a people lens is, one place is supporting efficiency of like creating additional perspective. So like being able to use a ChatGPT as an intern, right? I think that a lot of people are using it as an assistant. Back to your point earlier, there are, I think, these power users who, myself included, and someone that I spoke with recently this week, that said, I use it so much that I'm like, am I using it too much? Like, do I like? But besides that, I think there's at a recruiting, from a recruiting lens, I see a lot of people building custom GPTs to build out things like job scorecards and interview plans, leveraging custom bots to help hiring teams align on needs and draft job descriptions through like an asynchronous process versus having to get all these stakeholders in the room for a period of time. And so I think the efficiency there is huge. I think the synthesizing of large amounts of data, like you said, from a kind of L&D team lens for things like engagement surveys and performance reviews and workforce planning, lets you actually be able to do things in the moment versus having to take all this time to analyze the results, and you don't even have that done for 2 weeks. And I think like that old way of thinking about engagement surveys and performance reviews is just a bit antiquated at this point, when you can.
It already was antiquated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now it's extra antiquated.
Exactly. And to like the connection between all of these data points, I think that's where like the beauty will lie, is like, how are we connecting the engagement data to the performance data to the workforce planning data? And then how do we add on like a coaching layer? And so I think those are just some, and then I think being able to access knowledge management in a way that works for people and is a personalized experience versus the past where you have to go to a person and get information that you could easily pull up yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think personalized experience is probably a good segue into, Pascal, some of your experience in how you're leveraging it. Do you want to share what's working for you?
And the starting point for us, and I think in education maybe even more, because there is not only, there is many goals. I'm an educational expert. I'm not an expert of outside of education. Okay, so maybe I'm going to have a bit of bias here. We don't only want to produce and to reach our goal in terms of productivity. We want also the student to learn, and so it's not necessarily to do it right, but it's to be able to demonstrate what we know, and so we can learn from our mistake, etc. So the first thing we've done with AI was to question the use, how the student could use it. And so in 2023, when ChatGPT released, OpenAI released the API key, the first thing we've done is to show to the student that it's not about going on ChatGPT, but it's about going on some system that the school they can design, and the school can decide how ChatGPT is going to behave with the student. And so we can take this idea here beyond education and the learning world. Is I would be concerned if everybody in an organization will go on ChatGPT to get some support, because each organization have a different philosophy, have different values. And so if you're in Singapore, in the international school in Singapore, the American school in Munich, a French school lost in Ardèche, in the middle of France, or at the United Nations International School, and if you don't instruct ChatGPT to reflect on your core values and mission, then you're going to get some outcome that does not reflect on that. So the first thing that we look at is, how can we design system that will integrate AI, but we will be able to direct AI to do what we believe is right. And so from this here, we have done a few experiments, and there is maybe two areas have been very, very interesting, and so can interest also our audience here, is on teacher feedback. What I've noticed and what I discussed with head of school or school principal, they don't necessarily do enough observation. And some of them share that with me. I remember one last year was telling me, I've done only 4 observations this year. And I stopped because I've not yet written the report. And so it's writing the report that take away the principal to be in the class. What I've seen also is some head of school principal sitting in the back of the room and already writing their report because they save some time. They're in the class, they write report. But when you do that, you don't necessarily focus on what you need to focus on, the engagement of the student, the relationship with the teacher. You need to stand up and go around. You need to go on your knee, go at the level of the student. You need to do all this work in order to capture what happened in the classroom. So what we have been doing, and if I give you an example, when a head of school was telling me I've done 4 observations, I was able to do 70 observations with a report that was shared in the same time period, with report that were shared in the half day to the teacher, and with an alignment with the teaching standard, which is very difficult when you do an observation. How after you need to reflect on what are the expectations and what your observation, how your observation align with the standard. And so we have designed a system that do the writing for us, but allow me and my assistant to focus all our time on the quality of the observation. What we do also is we use our voice. We get out of the room. We have few notes. We don't take too much note because we want to be part of this observation fully. And we talk for like 10, 15 minutes to our phone. And from there, we're going to have some report that are going to be generated really well aligned with our observation. So we increase the quality of the observation. We increase the numbers of observation. We expand what we can say in those observations, and the teachers receive it very, very quickly. And at the beginning, the feedback was like, wow, that's something is different here. Another place we have used it also, Barbara, recently is on recruitment. We use a video system to do some pre-interview recording. And so we are using AI system to write the transcript and to do a summary and AI analysis based on some very specific elements that matter to us. And so we are able to acquire more data that we can navigate through easier than to go back to see a video, which can take a lot of time. So we integrate in this system also AI to support us, not to make the decision for us, but to support us to be more informed, to be well informed. Yeah. And we see the quality of the work we're doing is greatly increased, and things that we couldn't do, we can do it now.
Yeah. I think your process for teacher observation and what you observed in the breakdown of the process is very similar to how a lot of companies operate with performance reviews too. They're going through the process just to go through it. Everybody hates it. It's not really getting the value from what we're supposed to be doing, which is having performance feedback happen regularly. So it's not the same, but similar in terms of like thinking about how we can leverage AI and these systems to make us better at what we're supposed to be doing, not necessarily taking over that job, but doing something that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
And that process, Barbara, if I just had, is you need to think about, that's why I was talking about the cheese, the wine, and the bread. You need to think about the process. What is the best process, regardless of the technology? And then after you see where the technology can come and enhance or transform positively this process, and where my time is going to be the more valuable. But the process is very important. I think some company has been really fast in integrating AI because it's a rush, not necessarily thinking about the process we're looking at. And process it needs to be the starting point. What do we want to achieve and what journey we want to take?
Well, I'm just thinking about cheese and wine and bread now, so thank you. Akhila, you probably have some insight also similar to some of the stuff that Amanda was talking about, just in terms of the kinds of data and what we can do with data, and also how we're collecting data, I know, in some of the work that you're doing. So what would you add?
Yeah, so I think mostly the AI, like right now, that adoption is towards automating some of our work or analyzing the work, right? And mostly in our company, we are focused on analyzing the data. This analyzing could happen with identifying all the different types of conversations that are going on within the company and helping the leaders to know what are the trigger points. Where is your culture actually deviating, or how is your culture degrading at one point? What trigger points that you could actually identify and fix them ahead of time? So this is being more proactive of understanding how your decisions that you're making and how your employees are reacting to it, and building a culture that everyone is happy to work at, right? So we are focusing on getting that data. That data could be not just conversations, whether it's through Jira, if you're using Jira or Confluence as a project management, the way the epics are created, the way the workload is, the way your operations are, is it being effective or are you stuck with some blockers? What are those blockers? How do you actually identify it? You have thousands of epics going on, you have like 10 different teams working on it. How do you actually know the pinpoint details of where the issue is happening? It's Humanly, it's impossible for us to understand individual data points, for us to read that individual data points, but AI is really good at that. AI can identify these patterns. AI can create the correlations. Hey, this is happening because of these dependencies from other projects. This is a set of people that you have, like, certain blocking going on. These are some operational inefficiencies that you have. So I see AI mostly to be adopted, like from the company that we are trying to build the products, is mostly to understand this kind of information and provide that to the leaders so that they don't rely on just on the survey data, or they just don't rely on what employees are saying rather than actually feeling or what is actually happening around it. And you don't have to do this you don't have to wait for 90 days to run an NPS score, or you don't have to wait 6 months to run a full-fledged survey to get all this information. This can happen as a continuous. You can run it right away. Like, hey, this week I feel something is wrong. Let me know what is really happening. You run the AI, you get a score, and you identify what factors are influencing that score. And another part that we are mostly working on or see the value is understanding the skill gap, which is mostly important right now, because it's not the concept of AI is taking away my job is not true. It's more of what skill gap that you have so that you could adopt AI into your workplace, right? So if you're a data analyst, how AI can help you. If you're a QA, how AI can help you. So as a HR professional, they have this responsibility either to create these new jobs that needs to be filled in, or upgrade their existing employees with whatever the new skill. So what is that skill gap analysis, right? These are the responsibilities you have. These are the skill set you have currently, and what is that you need to learn so that you can be efficient. So this is mostly needed right now, and it can also help us to develop individual skills rather than just laying off, hey, this is not going to work, so we lay off you, or just bringing in new people who have more knowledge but doesn't have enough experience to run the business. So there is a gap. There is like a real requirement of business experience, at the same time AI experience that's needed, and making sure that HR professionals are empowered with the skill gap analysis, something that we are working on. And I feel like this is mostly efficient with AI that we can actually use.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I like the kind of idea of, well, I'm not a fan of surveys or performance reviews, obviously. I think both should be just something that's always on, that you have a pulse to. So what you're saying about being able to collect that data in a way that we wouldn't otherwise do, or that we would have to set up a survey and send a survey, it's almost that some of these processes make us feel less human in a way and more transactional, and we have to go through these steps. And in this context, it's again a way that we can still keep our humanity, I suppose, and have this happening in the background while still benefiting from the outcome of that, or what the data is telling us, and actually even learning more than we would otherwise, because the format of the way that we're collecting the data. And you started to talk about skill gaps, and so let's just segue into that, because I think it's not all of this is shifting how we're working, but it's also very quickly confronting us with a very fast change of what skills are required. And I think, for example, I've already heard of first-year college students who were planning to become engineers doing coding, changing course completely and not pursuing that role at all, because a lot of baseline junior entry-level coding jobs are essentially already being done by AI. So that's a very quick shift in how people are thinking about their future and the skill sets they need and what's to come. I know we don't really know what we don't know, and we'll see what happens. This is the best part of living through all this. But what are some of the skills that we should be considering, both if we think about our employees and the workforce, but also HR, functional leaders, pretty much everybody? What are those things that we really should be focused on?
Yeah, I think what you said, like, what we don't know, right? But what we know as human, those are the skills that we need to develop because we want to make AI to work for us. So when we want AI to work for us, we need to like focus more on those kind of skills. So I would say, irrespective of what job or what role you have or what position you are, I think everyone needs to have these basic skills, right? Like first one is like prompt engineering. You need to know how to talk to AI, like what instructions that you're providing, how you're framing your prompting so that you could get the information that you want. And the second thing is the critical thinking. Yes, it's the basic skills that we were supposed to learn from our childhood, from all our school age, which is more important, right? The developing of the mindset of what if this happens, or what if this means, or what else could happen. Understanding these two would help us not to completely rely on what AI is providing, but question the AI to get the better results, right? AI is expert, but AI knows what we are feeding it. It's up to us. There's a lot of responsibility as a human to decide how we are interpreting that AI outputs, how we are using that AI outputs. Unless we have this level of critical thinking, it will be impossible for us to go in a straight path using the AI outputs, right?
Yeah.
And then basic ethical awareness, like ethics is important, morals are important. Now it's more important because you need to, there is a machine taking in all the information from different ideologies, different cultures, different people, putting it together. It's just taking a lump of, like, blob of text, learning that and just throwing that information at us. So unless we know what ethical sense that we have towards us as a person, at the same time the social responsibility that we have, we wouldn't be able to efficiently use AI can say anything. Like one example, when I was speaking with another CEO, they said like, hey, I want AI to go and, like, reduce world hunger, and AI just goes and kills 10,000 people. Look, world hunger is reduced because I killed. Is it ethically accepted? So those kind of, no, like, consciousness, that's something that we need. And another basic skill I believe everyone need is data literacy, right? How to read the data, whether it's a data analysis that we talk about it, or how we are combining that information. You need to know what the data structures are, how the data is being processed, how the data is being understood. This as was or is still a job like data analysis, but I think it's a part that's going to become into everyone's role because you're working with data. AI is directly correlated with data. So you need to know what is a good data means, what is data training means, what do you mean by training and testing the data. So you need to know the basics of what the data literacy means. And the
Yeah.
most important, and I feel more involved, is the imagination, right? You need to have the ideologies or the imaginative power so that you can leverage. We have seen from 2023 to now how many different products came out. That because people were imagining what AI can do. But the more we could actually have developed that skill of imagination, we can make the better use of AI into our daily lives and also into the companies. I think
Yeah.
these are few things more of a human level.
Yeah, makes sense. I think critical thinking is definitely one that is critical and not always common. And just in my own personal experience, questioning results like, oh, did you actually read this? Or did you go through that? Or did you reference that? And it's like, oh, well, no, that's a good call out. So you can't just take this stuff blindly. Pascal, how about you? What are your thoughts around skills?
Yeah, I mean, it's really the core of the work we're doing in a school. And so it might be a bit redundant, but it might take us a different direction on certain area, what I'm going to share with you. There is in a school and we have a curriculum, and for many years we talk about core skills in literacy and in mathematics and soft skills. When I started to see the potential of this technology, I think I quickly realized with many other educators that those soft skills are going to become the core skills, that AI is going to take on content. And we're going to need to develop some different skills for our students, dive into the skill that we're working that we're saying that were soft, and are not soft anymore, and also try to imagine but what all those skills need to evolve. And in one of the presentations I did for the UN Summit of the Future last September, I met with Michaela Horvatova. And she's the CEO of an organization, Beyond Education. And she has reflected on what are those skills of the 21st century in a world with this technology, including AI. And it's really about looking at skills, character, of our students. I'm going to share with you those elements here. And so in terms of skills, there is the idea of creativity. And I think, Akhila, you kind of talk about it when you talk about being able to imagine, the collaboration, communication, critical thinking, which is something that, of course, is not just from today, but it has been something at the core of education. Then she's looking at character, leadership, mindfulness, ethics, resilience, courage, curiosity. So that's those elements here that she believes that the student tomorrow will need to be able to demonstrate. And then she looked at some meta-learning, the growth mindset, so the belief that we have the ability to learn, to grow, which I think is really, really well aligned with the work you're doing at Pando, Barbara. And also the metacognition, reflecting on the way we think, the way we can adapt to circumstances. And in some ways, all those character, skills, meta-learning that she presents with our organization, this is the character that we're going to need to be able to demonstrate, to adapt to the unknown that we're talking about. In some ways, if we can demonstrate that, no matter what's going to happen, we may be able to adapt to these circumstances. And I will give you one example. Our school is an IB school, so we have already those characters very important in the IB diploma, the International Baccalaureate. We want not only the student to know how to do things, we want them also to demonstrate character. And what we realized during COVID is that the school, we did pretty good. And we did pretty good because we have been able to demonstrate all those characters. COVID was a big impact, of course, everywhere and on education. Very, very deep transformation on how we're going to teach those students in this environment. And we needed to be able to be all this, to adapt to the circumstances and to feel successful and to reach our goals. So I think the future of education and the workplace is to be able to support those characters in our employees, in our students. Now, the complexity is how do you develop that? Because you develop that through also your engagement in specific activity. You develop that by being part of something. So if the technology is doing things for us, how are we going to develop also those important character skills and meta learning? So that's the question in suspense a bit.
It is a good question. It's interesting because a lot of the skills that you flagged are things that we see pretty frequently in company rubrics, and how you're developing against those is like, at least in a competency-based feedback performance system, you're modeling behaviors and getting feedback on those behaviors to obviously continue those behaviors if you're doing it or not. But it's interesting that there is that alignment. And I would say that there has been a trend, probably just with more and more sort of technological advancement, to have that balance between the job that you do and the hard skills that you have and all the other things, which in some of the examples you gave, I would say are not soft skills, but companies consider them soft skills too, still. And then some of them are more like values, even like courageous or curious or things like that are more like, how do you operate as a person or a company? Amanda, what about you?
You said so many already that I think
We do. There is a lot.
Yeah,
We've got a rubric. Maybe I
yeah,
should make a rubric coming out of this session and send it to everybody.
The only other one that I'll add, so I'll be quick, but I think at the end of the day, like delegation is a huge one. I think that, and I would venture to say that if you are a strong manager, you will be well versed to use AI tools, generative AI tools, because I think a lot of it is how you provide the context, how you clearly define a problem and share that, and how you guide something through a process, how you follow up and how you give feedback. So like all of the skills that we're talking about are, I would say, part of this like delegation act if you're like working with an AI tool.
I find it quite ironic in the same time that we're cutting the management layer in many contexts and flat organizations, everyone is also stepping into a manager role in a way. So I think that's really interesting. Any parting words of wisdom that anybody wants to jump in with?
I can start maybe very quickly. I'm going to choose to share with you two quotes. One is from the president of Atari, who is sharing a paradox. If we do it right, we might actually be able to evolve a form of work that taps into our uniquely human capabilities and restores our humanity. The ultimate paradox is that this technology may become the powerful catalyst that we need to reclaim our humanity. So if we do it right, we can be here. Now, if we don't do it right, and that's my concern here, if technology is doing so many things for us, how is it going to allow us to continue to have our gymnastic of the brain? If the technology is going to write for me, how writing can impact some other area that are not relating to writing, but that are related to mathematics. We know a student that is multilingual is going to be able to solve mathematical problems with much more strategies than a student that is not, but it's about mathematics here. So I'll finish with this quote too. It's from Frank Lloyd, an architect. If it keeps up, man will atrophy all his limbs, but the push button finger. And so we need to think in the work we're doing also on how this technology is going to support us, but also how it's going to take away also our cognitive capabilities. And so let's do it right. Let's engage in this conversation like we're doing today, Barbara, to make sure that we are going to do it right.
Very good inspirational point to end on. Akhila, Pascal, and Amanda, thank you so much for joining. Thank you everyone for joining us, and have a great rest of Pando Horizons.